Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm so excited to introduce this next guest. Her name is Tina Erwin. She's a ghost helper. Tina is passionate about being a ghost helper. Her mission is to teach the living how to help the dead. She wants to empower everyone to help any ghost they may find. Tina says that this is the compassion we all want for ourselves. She urges everyone to use the Crossing Over prayer on ghosthelpers.com and in the Crossing Over prayer book. Tina has studied metaphysics all of her life, gaining insights into the metaphysical world of magic, spirituality. She is the author of 8 books on metaphysics. Her writing comes from an intense desire to know and understand the hard science behind the unseen world of action and reaction, combined with a sincere desire to share this understanding with other knowledge seekers. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Tina.
Thank you so much. I am just delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. So oh my goodness, I'm really excited to get started here. So tell us your journey. How did you become a ghost helper? What brought you to where you are at today?
Well, I'm like all of us. We're all psychic. You can't drive a car without being psychic. And I just discovered I had a little bit more ability. It's not a gift. I couldn't give it back. So it was one of these things I knew how to do. And when I graduated from college. I have a degree in industrial relations and a master's in management. And no one would hire me in 1972. So I joined the Navy.
Wow.
And I met some of the most astonishing men, including my husband of 50 years. And to be able to work with men of this caliber, because I worked for the submarine force for 20 years. And if you have a submarine and you deliberately submerge your vessel, I don't care what anybody says, you have to be a little bit psychic. And the number of stories about the psychic experiences of men, the premonitions, the things that happened to men, the things that they would tell me privately were astonishing and really helped me to understand that psychic ability is not just something that happens to, super sensitive, empathic women. It happens to everybody. And my husband, once I married my husband, it's like the whole world exploded psychically. But I'm still a naval officer. So I began to have unusual experiences. I could see the future. I could, in certain situations, I would have feelings about things. I discovered I could do some odd things called remote viewing, but I didn't know that's what it was. I had an attempted possession right after we were first married. I didn't know what any of those things were. I didn't know that a ghost could try to inhabit your body and what that felt like. I didn't know how to cross them over. And this feeling just never got less. I ended up encountering many ghosts in the Navy. We were stationed in Italy, and we were in buildings in the Armed Forces Southern Europe buildings, which were built by the Nazis. And good God, they were haunted. You could hear people being tortured and the floors above us at night if you had the duty. And I wasn't the only one. Other officers told me they felt and heard the same things, but shh. We're naval officers. We can't tell anybody that we hear these psychic things. Why is this a secret?
Yeah, right.
Why can't we tell people? Why are we making this a secret?
That's true.
So anyway, come back from Italy. I'm pregnant with our first son, and we buy an 18-month-old house that is profoundly haunted from a different stack of time in the late 1600s, early 1700s.
Wait, I'm sorry. You bought an 18-month-old house?
Yeah.
Okay, and it had been built over an older property. Okay, got it.
The old Archdale Plantation, and that's in Ghost Book 1. I have 3 books called Ghost Stories from the Ghost Point of View, and that story's in Book 1.
Wow.
And the amount of ghostly haunting events in that house in that neighborhood. The neighborhood was so haunted. My neighbor next door, whose house was not any older than mine, because it was a subdivision, newly built. She could hear footsteps. She could hear, like we could. She would see water droplets all over her counters, and her ceiling is dry. Things vanished. We each had ghosts who were thieves. Another homeowner heard horses all night. He figured his house was over a stable. Another homeowner would come downstairs and all of her furniture would be rearranged. She moved. Another homeowner came downstairs and a rocking chair would be moved in front of a blank wall, and it was like someone was in it rocking. So I did enormous research and I started studying metaphysics when I was 8, but I started really trying to understand what happens when you die. What is this thing called predecessor energy, which I was experiencing? And like your experiences, everything that happens to you, if you bring it to your awareness, prepares you for your next series of experiences, only maybe now you handle them with more wisdom, more knowledge, more insight. Well, that's what happened to me. I started studying, how do you cross over a ghost? Because this guy, he needed to go home. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get to figure that out for quite some time.
The ghost that was living in your house.
Ghost that was living in our house, we could never get him to leave. He would pound on the walls, and you could hear the plaster falling inside the walls. Wow. He would run down the hall. He would jimmy my car so I couldn't drive it. When I took it to the mechanic, it starts up perfectly, and the mechanic says, I know you think your car's fine now, and this was a false alarm, but if you had driven your car, you would have wrecked it.
Whoa.
And I'm thinking, okay, so now the ghost just saved my life. How do I make sense of this? So I had a relationship with a ghost. Mm-hmm. And when we were living in Italy, I was visiting one of my fellow female naval officers. And I look over in the corner and there's a man standing there, but he's a ghost in a 1940s fedora with a trench coat, looking very spy-like.
How did you know he was a ghost?
I knew he was a ghost because I know there were only 2 of us physically in the room, and I look over and he is clear as a bell. I can see him.
Clear as if like human clear, or was there some type of transparency to him?
There was transparency to him.
Okay.
And of course, he doesn't have any feet, so I pretty much figured he was a ghost. Mm-hmm. He wasn't my first ghost, but he was a pretty visual ghost. And so I said, oh my gosh, do you know you have a ghost in your house? And she says, oh, you can see him. I love him. He's been with me all my life. We go everywhere together. And it's like, oh my God, that is so not what I thought. So, and he talked to me telepathically. Mm-hmm. And gave me his rationale for not crossing over and why he loved her. And it was a real lesson in understanding another point of view, another worldly point of view. We moved to Norfolk, and I worked for the submarine force.
Tina, I'm sorry, but I'm anxious to know what happened. Why didn't he cross over? Why was he still hanging around? What did he tell you?
Because he told me that he waited for her to reincarnate so they could be together.
Oh, wow.
He wanted a mortal life. He did not. He just wanted to be with her. And he saved her life at least twice. She should have died. And she had a remarkable naval career. She never dated. She never married because she was emotionally married to this guy.
So I'm curious. I'm just, if you can maybe you could just feel into it. If he's waiting for her to pass on, why would he be saving her life?
Because he didn't, and this is karmically complicated. That's a whole different discussion.
Because of soul contracts and stuff?
It's more than that.
Okay.
She wanted a mortal life. He did not. He didn't tell me this. This was my sense of it. Uh-huh. They both died somehow in either the 30s or the 40s based on his clothing.
Okay.
Because what a ghost is wearing when they die tells you a lot.
Yes.
Hi, kitty.
Yeah.
And so because of that, gorgeous cat.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, so beautiful.
Thank you.
So he said, I'm here for her. I can't love her in the way you love your husband, but I love her and I just want to be with her. And they were stationed in Italy, and then they went to London, and she was attached to an activity there, and she had carbon monoxide poisoning, and he got her to wake up and get out of the house before she died.
Wow.
And she's always known he is there. But the problem is when you live with a ghost, when you have a telepathic relationship with a ghost, and you're living in a semi third, fourth dimension world, and then you have to operate in a third dimensional world, it plays with your head. And this ghost earned, unfortunately, negative karma because he didn't cross over, because the karmic clock keeps ticking. So the question is, well, didn't he earn positive karma because he saved her life?
Right.
Well, it's more complicated than that. If she had had a life as a mortal woman, she might have had a female roommate or a male roommate or been married or have had children by then, and she wouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not he saved her life is not as relevant as that he shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Okay.
That is the bigger karmic picture. And it caused her to have a lot of emotional problems later in life.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a very, very curious situation. I know people say, oh, I have a ghost in my house, I just love him. There's nothing like this. This is like that film from the 30s, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, where it was this very similar situation. They made a movie about it. So this is not without precedent.
Oh wow. That's really interesting. What I'm feeling when you're saying is that so they had a romantic relationship without a non-physical romantic relationship.
That is exactly correct.
My goodness. So then, I mean, I've imagined stories like this. I've just actually never really heard a real story like this. So what happened then after that? You went to Italy, or you left Italy? I mean,
well, my husband and I we were stationed in Italy, and then we moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and that's when we had the super haunted house. And I even went to the Duke University School of Parapsychology and said, I think this guy should be crossed over or something, because sage is worthless. If one more person said, oh, I smudged a little sage, it's absolutely worthless. It doesn't have the frequency horsepower to remove a ghost. Just doesn't. I don't care how much you burn.
What frequency power does sage have to remove? Does it have any of it?
None. It's really lovely.
So it's like folklore?
It's folklore.
Oh, wow.
It's great for sausage and ceremonies, but it's
okay.
It's worthless, absolutely worthless if you're trying to help the dead. Think about it. It's an herb. You need a real resin, and there are a series of resins that you can use that will clear even horrific negative energy, including the energy of ghosts. But you're not doing the spiritual service you need to do unless you cross them over. So you can cross them over and then use these resins, which I can explain too.
Sure. Okay, so then you went to the university parapsychology department. You were hoping to find a way to get rid of this ghost, and you didn't find answers.
They said, we have no idea. If you figure it out, let us know. It's like, okay, what are you studying? He said, we just study psychic phenomenon, but we don't really understand how it works. And I'm thinking, it's physics 101. Why is this hard for you? I am not a physicist. I can explain how it works. I understand why they're ghosts. Why don't you guys get it? You're supposed to be really smart guys, but not all smart people are actually wise.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So how did you finally discover how to cross them over?
We moved from Charleston to Virginia, and then Virginia to San Diego. And I retired from the Navy and started a computer company. And I loved writing software. It's just the coolest thing ever. but I couldn't keep up with the changing operating system. So I closed my company. And then along the way, I did 20 trade shows for Apple Computer in 1 year. They loved my project. But I did a trade show and a guy handed me a business card. And from that moment on, my life went to hell. And when you're in my job, one of my main jobs in the Navy was to protect submarines from terrorist attack. So you learn a lot about the basis of evil and horrible cruelty, which in the metaphysical world is called black magic. And I had someone use black magic against me, and the goal was for me to die. And he tried to kill me. It's a very long story, and I knew so little. And I had many long, dark nights of the soul. And I ended up in an emergency room, and I had about 2 hours before I was going to die.
Wow.
And it was horrible, horrible feeling. I didn't understand what it was. And finally, my brother figured it out. He figured out that it was the business card, and that the business card connected me to this person. And it's called a witness, or it goes back to Greek mythology, the story of Persephone, when Mother Nature asked her daughter, "What did Hades give you?" And she said, "I ate 6 pomegranate seeds." So now he had a connection to her. So understanding mythology, this has gone on for millennia. I realized that the business card was a connection to something really, really dark that enabled him to continue to access me. It also enabled me to understand how the physics of how we are connected to each other and how black magic works. So it was a valuable lesson. It also gave me a deeper, more profound connection to God, because the night before I almost died, I did an awful lot of praying, an entire night of the long, dark night of the soul, which is, what all of us have to go through, I think, at some point on a spiritual journey.
I believe it. Yes.
And when that happened, I realized that it was a really tough thing. So what caused me to be in the hospital in the first place was I had figured out how to return this guy's energy. Once I figured that out and I returned his energy, it's like someone went click and turned a switch, and everything he was sending to me stopped. And it was like I woke up. Oh my gosh. I could think straight. It was incredible. Well, one night, about a week later, I realized he was dying. I could see him because I was still connected, but when he was connecting to me, had no more power.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he died, all of a sudden, it's like someone opened this door and I could remote view and see him leave his body. I could see his wife come in. I could see the paramedics remove his body. I could see him in the ambulance. And then all of a sudden, I realized that there were these horrible dark beings that were coming at him, just like in the movie Ghost. It was chilling. And the evening it happened, my husband and my brother were with me. And my brother said, "Why don't we cross him over?" And I had no idea how to do that at the time. So I said, "Sure." And because of my willingness, this is my theory, I'm going to go with it.
Sure.
Because of my willingness to cross him over, something changed, and it was a very big change. And it's like this doorway opened and this astonishing light shone. And so I didn't know to bring in an angel. I just asked for help in crossing this man over. And all these horrible beings were coming at him with these claws, and they were trying to tear at him and tear at him. And so my brother and I used psychically our energy and gently pushed him into the light. And right before he crossed over, he said, "Why would you help me? I spent months trying to kill you." And I said, "Well, because you're not mine to judge." And maybe if you cross over, you'll have a different life the next time.
Yeah.
But you aren't for me to judge.
Mm-hmm.
So I crossed him over. And it opened a doorway where I could do more and more remote viewing, but it was exhausting at first. It was really, I would be wiped out for 24 hours after every time.
Oh my goodness.
Which doesn't happen anymore. But, and I realized that I could do it everywhere I went. They came at me. So it took a while, but I learned how to do it faster and faster.
How does that work with karma? I guess you stepping in and helping him cross over rather than having karma do what it's intended to do with the deeds that he did in his living life. Does that have anything to do with it?
It has everything to do with it. Remember, that's a really, really astute question. So thank you for asking that. When a person has committed heinous crimes, and I'm including the worst serial killers and murderers, when you cross them over, and for God's sake, cross them over, they stop haunting and harassing the living.
Okay.
It is chilling in its power. When you cross them over, their karmic clock stops. Their karmic record persists for eternity. So the karma that has been created will be returned to the soul in the appropriate time, which is so beyond my pay grade, and I am so grateful. So when you look at it from the point of view that just because you cross over a really terrible person who's done horrible things doesn't stop their karmic record of the horror they've committed.
Okay.
And how that's returned to the soul is not for the person who crosses them over to determine. It's for beings on higher realms. And if you cross them over, there's another element to this. And it is that when someone is abused, life after life, bits and pieces of their soul is shaved off.
Oh, wow.
Until what makes us human, what makes us have a conscience, which makes us love and cry and weep and grieve, those elements that make us human are shaved off. Excuse me. And we don't remember what it's like to have a conscience. That's why serial killers are born. There's no pill, potion, procedure, or platitude that's going to give you a way to heal a serial killer. They can't be, because their soul is too shaved off. If you cross that soul over, or that fractured pieces of soul over into the heaven world, the soul is restored. You might ask me, how do I know that, right?
Sure. Yeah. How do you know that?
Because every faith on the planet has a 23rd Psalm. And it says, lo, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, blah, 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 blah. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. He restoreth my soul. He restoreth my soul. Brings those parts of the soul back together that have been shaved off for God knows how long. And when that happens, then that soul may come to recognize itself and then choose to be a different person in the next life, and will now be working with the higher realms in a way to atone for past action.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
That makes clear sense. Yes, thank you. These are questions I've always had. It's so amazing that you can answer these.
I could by hearing them.
Yeah, they tell you. So wow. So how long have you been crossing over ghosts now, or spirits? I have this question. What is a ghost and a spirit and a soul? Like, what are the differences between them?
A spirit is something you get at a bar, like a drink. If you do a lot of drinking at a bar, you will get ghosts who inhabit you. That's part of the reason they're called spirits. But ghosts are, I don't know where this word came from, but A spirit can be an angel, a black magician, a lower realm, a demonic being, a ghost, and God knows what, to all these people. You have no idea who that quote spirit is. So I've never talked to spirit. I perform due diligence to know who I'm talking to. Ghosts have a frequency that I recognize, even if it's low. A ghost is a human being who died and the mortal frame fell away like a rocket booster you don't need anymore. Mm-hmm. And now you have what is the energy that is used. So back to physics. If energy is neither created nor destroyed, then the energy that encompasses a soul and the housing is a mortal frame. But when the mortal frame falls away, the soul is left. Mm-hmm. The soul goes into the fourth dimension as the step-up transformer to the fifth. And the best view of this is the movie Ghost. So a soul and a ghost are the same thing. A spirit, I don't have a clue what it is. Can be anything.
Okay.
So that's a terminology thing.
Got it. And so then you're saying that a ghost and a soul is the same thing at that point.
Correct. Yes.
So when somebody passes on, can we talk about what happens when we die?
Yes. You told me previously you studied Buddhism.
Yes.
I'm sure probably, I'm guessing in your path you studied the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying.
Yes. We even did meditations where we actually meditate on our death.
That's fascinating. I used to sleep with that book because there was so much beauty in it. And there was so much truth in it that it was really a moving volume for me. And my teacher was a student of Sogyal Rinpoche. So my lineage goes back through that Buddhist lineage. In the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and I'm letting people know where did I get this information, and it is from this book, and I highly recommend it. Okay. The Buddhists talk about everyone is going to leave a mortal frame and exit the body. It's a natural process, and the process is the same whether you take 6 months as the body shuts down and dies, or you die instantly in an accident, or you fall off a cliff. The process is the same. All of the body systems begin to shut down. The etheric, I see it as etheric rigor mortis starts to set in before death. That's why a lot of people can feel death coming. Etheric rigor mortis begins to interpenetrate the body. So some people say, I'm so tired, I'm ready to go. They can feel it's already there. And so as the body systems shut down, the extremities start shutting down the first, because that takes the most energy for the body to nourish. And slowly, 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 they shut down. I believe the Buddhists say you should lay on your right side in the lion position, right side or left side, if you have a choice in how you die. And then
why is that?
Because it's the easiest, is the body is on its side and sort of in an elongated position, then the chakras are pretty much lined up, even more than when you're laying down.
Oh, wow.
And that as you do that, then the body has a much easier path of exiting the soul, basically through the crown. And then the silver cord that is attached to the heart chakra, because the seed atom of the soul lives in the heart chakra. Wow. And that is where your Akashic records are. And that is what you take with you. And so the question is we'll come back to that. The question is how are Akashic records created? But once the mortal heat has left the body, this is a really important thing, and the body starts to get cold, because there is love and warmth, even in the body of a very evil person. There's still that warmth. But when that stops, and when the heart stops and shuts down, then the silver cord is considered severed. The seed atom of the soul moves with the soul, and that etheric structure, it looks like smoke, A Russian by the name of Carillion has photographed this. And Carillion photography is jaw-dropping when you see the soul leave the body. There's a photograph of a motorcyclist in an accident on the side of the road. Somebody took their camera out and they watched his soul leave his body. It was fascinating. And then the soul enters what's called the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a place of no time, no space, and no gravity. And when the soul is in that dimension, they travel with the speed of thought. They ricochet among family members. This is why you can have a family member 10,000 miles away and they can feel them right there. Oh, I knew when they died because you're traveling with the speed of thought. It's a really important concept to understand. You're not encumbered by the physicality of the heavy mortal frame. Mm-hmm. And as you do this, it's so amazing. However, there comes a point, and since there's no time, you don't know how long it's been, where a coldness begins to set in. Mm-hmm. And there's no one to ask. There's no direction. There's no signs. And very frequently, you'll see this bright light. And this is the movie Ghost. I got to say, they did a great job with that film. This the Whoopi Goldberg, Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore.
Yeah, great film.
Great film. Tony Goldwyn was the villain in that film. And so in that film, what you're seeing is that is what happens. You might not even realize you're dead. Patrick Swayze starts running after the guy and comes back to Demi Moore and says, oh, I couldn't catch him. And then he sees his dead body there. He didn't know he was dead. He was carried away with the emotion and the adrenaline of the moment, which even as he's dead, carried him forward.
Wow.
And then he sees this light, and that's what it looks like, this beautiful, warm light. And 99% of people don't move into that light because they tell me they're not worthy.
Wow.
They tell me they were born in sin and they were going to die in sin, and Christ couldn't love them. Christ died on the cross for their sins, and so God couldn't possibly love them.
Wow. Wow.
And I tell them that they've been lied to, that's not true. Christ died on the cross to manipulate karma. He didn't die on the cross for sins you hadn't committed yet or might not ever commit. Mm-hmm. Let's just change that view.
Yeah, right.
So then if you see the light and you walk toward it, it doesn't hurt your eyes. And the closer you get to this light, this warmth, this beauty, this love starts to permeate the incredible essence of your very soul. That's why those of us who've seen this don't fear death. Mm-hmm. When you see that and you move into this light, the love, I mean, the last statements Patrick Swayze makes were absolutely accurate. Oh, you can't believe the love. There's so much love here. It's so beautiful. Those are true statements. That part was extremely accurate. And having seen it, I can't count the number of times with huge volumes of souls. I mean, they don't come to me one and two. They might come to me 100,000 at a time. So I cross over volumes of souls.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I mean, I don't talk to all of them. I mean, there's not mortal time for that. And I just need to get them help.
Yes.
And then once they're in the heaven world, they are given healing for whatever caused their death. They are offered counselors of divine wisdom to help them understand the life just lived. Why was I born with this illness? Why did this happen to me? Why did I have those parents or marry this man? Mm-hmm. And they help you to acquire wisdom about the life just lived. Okay, so let me stop. How are we doing?
Excellent. I love this topic. I have so many questions as you're coming along. I'm just like, I have a lot of questions to ask you when you're done, but it's incredible.
Well, I'm in a stopping point. So it's like I can hear, okay, let's see what you would like to ask.
So I guess, geez, a lot of questions. Where do I start? When you're crossing over all these people or all these souls, are they aware that you're alive, that you're, or yes. They are aware? Okay.
I use a mountain of protection. And I have a variety of systems. It took me a long time to develop the process that I use.
Mm-hmm.
I created a process for the public to use, which is a crossing over prayer. And it's in the crossing over prayer book. It's on the website, and under the crossing over prayer, you can order crossing over prayer cards.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're moving on a large group, you have to provide enough protection for yourself. And I bring in angels and team members to start assisting people, children who are human trafficked. That's one of the worst ones. Children who have been in the tunnels and horrible things have happened to them. They require staggering amounts of care before you transition them, and to help them. I have done a tremendous amount of ghost removal in Virginia, North and South Carolina. You have Civil War dead, soldiers with hideous battle wounds, Revolutionary War dead, slave dead, men who were hung, men who were beaten to death. I mean, when you do this work at this level, you see the horrors that human beings can inflict on other human beings. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what your skin color is. A soul is a soul is a soul, and requires love, compassion, and care. Mm-hmm. A lot of care.
These other souls that you just, like, let's talk about, like war, World War I, Civil War. I mean, like hundreds of years, even thousands of years ago. Why haven't they crossed over?
Well, half of them have no idea they're dead. I mean, that's why I wrote these ghost story books, because my kids and my daughters-in-law kept saying, you have to write this stuff down. People don't understand. Mm-hmm. I was, work with Civil War dead all the time. And they go, you mean the battle's over? The battle is over. I'm so sorry you didn't make it. Oh, is that the spot that where the bullet went in? Yeah, that's where the bullet went in. Mm-hmm. Darn, why didn't Cornwallis surrender earlier? So sorry. Or people off the coast of North Carolina who drowned. So many of them drowned, and they were killed by pirates. Little old ladies who died of tuberculosis are still serving tea. They have no idea they're dead.
Wow. And so what's happening in that world, in that realm where they have no idea they're dead? Are they just living in like a cycle, like the same day, like Groundhog Day?
It's exactly Groundhog Day, except that in Groundhog Day, he progresses. Yeah. If you remember clearly, in Groundhog Day, he moves forward because he learns the lessons from the previous day and applies them. That's not true in this realm. You live the same day a million times, but you have no awareness that you're living the same day. He knew he was living the same day. There's a difference.
Okay.
Now, you also have people who don't feel worthy, and people who are consumed by the darkness of the lives they led, and they're trapped and can't cross over. So part of what I do is open these doors for even these horrific people and cross them over and close those, what I call the blister dimensions of hell.
And so the people that are living in this Groundhog Day, that are not aware of the fact that it's the same day over and over and over, I mean, aren't there people around them that have crossed over, and they're still seeing these people that are gone or are still alive? I mean, they're seeing the same movie type thing.
Let me give you a different perspective.
Okay.
Because I get this question a lot. Mm. Every person is different and unique. And every person's death and response to their own death is unique.
Okay.
And if you're a religious person and you died and you saw that light and you believed that God was there for you and you moved into the light, that's amazing. And that's what we would all hope for. Mm-hmm. If you're 2 years old and you die, how do you know what to do?
Right. Oh.
When my 6-year-old niece sat on the sofa next to my sister and said, "Mommy, I feel hot," and she died, she didn't have a clue what to do. my sister called me. This was in 2003. And she said, "You're not going to believe this, but Ariana hasn't taken a breath in an hour." And I went thinking that would mean she's dead. And then I completely rejected it. And then I remote viewed, and there she was standing in the emergency room, watching them work on her body with her arm around her sister. And I'm having a conversation with my dead niece, which was completely surreal. So you have to get back in that body. And she said, "Aunt Tina, I'm done. I'm never going back." And my frequency had dropped so much because of my grief, and the grief wave, I could feel like this tidal wave was going to crash over the entire family. I had to call my brother, and the two of us crossed her over, but she had no idea what to do. Children don't know.
And do they have fear? I mean, do you have fear when you're gone at that point? Do you have these normal human emotional fears, like when they see their body, like, oh my God, that's my body right there, I'm dead? Or is it kind of like an acceptance at that point?
Yes, to all of the above. If you have died a horrific death of, you've been consumed with cancer, and you're so glad to be free of this body, and the light comes for you, you know death is coming, you've watched it, you've seen the angel of death in the hospital room, you cross over. I had my brother called me. He was a contract negotiator for Screen Actors Guild many years ago. And I got a frantic call from him one night. He says, "One of my friends is a producer for this company, and she was in a car accident, and I can feel her, and she's trying to make phone calls, but she doesn't know she's dead. Can you reach out to her and cross her over?" And so I was able to connect to her because I followed her connection to my brother, and my connection to my brother and my brother's connection to her. Those are called Akka cords, and they create your Akashic records. And I made that connection very quickly. And she's standing by the side of the road. Her car's broken down. She can't see her body. She is, in that moment, emotionally blind to the fact that her body is there. And she said, she sees me, and I look like this light body. I look like, that's why you'll see in the book, people call me the light lady.
Okay.
And so it's how I am presented to them. I don't look like a full person. She says, "Oh my gosh, can you help me? You don't look like everybody else, but listen, this phone just doesn't seem to work. Can I borrow your phone?" And she said, "I'm talking to this cop, and he is just not listening to me." And I said, "Do you see your body over there?" And she said, "It can't be my body." And I said, I need you to understand that your phone doesn't work because you have died." And she says, "Oh, no, I can't be dead. Listen, I have a nail appointment tomorrow. I have a meeting with Paramount on Monday. I have a birthday party on Saturday. I can't be dead. I have way too much to do." So as she's doing that, I'm quietly bringing in a significant angel or two, and they're standing next to her, and this horrifying reality smacks her. I don't know how else to explain it. I died. Oh my God, I died. And then what comes next is the immediate grief. Oh my gosh, I'm going to miss my child and my husband, and I love my job. And what about this movie we're making? And what about? And I said, "I'm so sorry." And I put this golden shawl on her shoulders, which instantly changes her frequency, facilitates the crossover, and it warms her up. It starts to, this beautiful light starts to interpenetrate that soul body. And she goes, "But I had so much life to live. And I'm so sorry, but it's time to go. It's over. I don't want it to be over. So sorry, it's over. There's no going back now." And she is still completely bewildered and perplexed as she crosses that light bridge into the light.
But do they experience, like, can they actually start crying and stuff? Or is it more like bewilderment the way you described it?
Some of them cry. Some of them are so angry. that they died. Some of them, they see a murdered body. I've had murder victims tell me, I saw my body there and I'm so angry. My dad told me to put my hair up, not have it in a ponytail. And he grabbed me by my ponytail and murdered me in the bushes. It was from a woman who was murdered in San Diego. And then they tell me how much they miss their mom or their dad, or they can't even catalog the people they have loved so much that they're going to miss. And this is such an important concept for people to understand, that the dead grieve. The dead grieve their death. They grieve the life they aren't going to get to live. They grieve so many people they have loved. And so there are those people who just choose, denial is pretty easy. So I just won't notice that I'm dead. I'll just keep serving you tea, or hoping that rescue is going to come. Rescue isn't going to come.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. And there's as many ghost stories as there are ghosts.
Tina, I feel like if I were in your shoes and I seen this ghost just being this emotionally distraught feelings after passing, I feel like I would take those feelings with me. How do you cleanse your energy? How do you gain your own personal energy after going through so many different types of emotions with all of these souls? How do you recharge?
There are some that are really hard, and I've had some that I'm wiped out for days. It's so bad. But I use what I call detached compassion. If I give in fully to the emotion, then it's like a part of me is judging, and that triggers an emotion.
That's true. That's true.
And so the wisest path is to not judge. The greatest service is to do my job and do a really good job at doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And to provide them what they haven't had before, which is compassion, mm-hmm. and just the most basic kindness. And if I can do that, then they soften. I have dealt with so many Civil War dead, the Yankees and the Confederates and the slaves and the civilians who died in that 5-year war. And you hear their stories, and what you realize is they've been dead, some of them have been dead, 100 years. I've had some ghosts have been dead 1,000 years. And I sift through stacks of time to find all the dead in a location. Takes me a while sometimes. And when you do that and you clean that location of the dead, it's kinder to the earth.
Oh, wow.
And I recharge. I love where I live. I have a very long and happy marriage. I have an amazing family, fabulous children and grandchildren. I've had an astonishing life. So I am a very fortunate person, and I do ordinary, mundane things. And I walk in the woods, or I talk to my siblings or something like that, that gives me that strength and courage. It's like you have to have emotional anesthetic or you can't do the job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So I have a question about reincarnation.
Okay.
So let's say I die now, or I die today, hypothetically, and then I'm hanging out. What would I hang out? The fourth dimension? How long does somebody hang out in the fourth dimension before they get to the fifth?
Well, if you don't know you're dead, that could be 1,000 years or more. And you can come back. Reincarnation is a very complicated process.
Okay. Because
people can reincarnate from the fourth dimension.
Oh, wow.
This is true because serial killers don't reincarnate from heaven.
Oh, got it. That makes sense.
It does. It's pure metaphysics is pure logic. When you look at the logic of it, all of these pieces start to mesh and you begin to see the entire framework. Why we need to cross people over. So if a person, and let's say that there is a pilot in World War II, and he dies in 1941, December 7th, when Pearl Harbor is bombed.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down, his plane goes down. He comes back in 5 years. I'm here to tell you, he didn't go into the heaven world. And some of them, I was in Hawaii visiting one of my husband when he had a research ship when he was in Hawaii after he retired from the Navy. And we were on the fantail of the ship, and I looked over and I said, was there a ship that sunk over there? Look at all those men standing there waving at me. And he says, you have got to be quiet. The crew doesn't know what you are. So, oh, I'm sorry. He says, just do your job. And so some of them, they didn't know they were dead. Some of them are in the fourth dimension and come back. What that mechanism is, I do not know. In the heaven world, the reincarnation cycle based on years of reading is about 152 years. But if you had an exceedingly arduous life, it could be 1,000 Earth-timed years.
Okay. So I can remember my past lives. I can remember even my last life. So when I meditate, I can see who I was. I can see who I was married to and stuff. And I wonder, so in that case, if I can remember just my last life and I can remember it be the 1930s, the 1940s. So I didn't have time to go to heaven. I just reincarnated. I stayed in the realm and just came back to this now body.
Mm-hmm. But you probably came back very quickly without enough time to be fully processed and to build on what you were going to do. And that happens to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And because that happens, then, I mean, that's why I'm convinced that's why 70 million people died in World War II. 70 million.
Sheesh.
The 60% of the deaths were Russian, by the way.
Wow.
The Russians took the brunt of the 70 million. It's not well known. I was a history major for a while. But so when so many people come back quickly, then how that works in these higher realms, I don't honestly know.
Okay.
But if more and more people crossed over, if their consciousnesses, if their connection to the divine was such that as soon as they died, they immediately move into the heaven world, you would probably have less crime, less horrors on earth, less cruelty. There's so much cruelty right now. And so if you had less of that, you would advance the world spiritually. So this life mission for me of helping people who want to help others to cross over, it's not like picking and choosing. Every single soul needs to go. Some souls are just tired and they need that benefit of this love and this light and this healing that they can't get anywhere else. I mean, people are born with some pretty serious issues that affect them throughout their lives. Children are born with cancer. Some people are born with, all kinds of different things. So whatever the reason, that's not for any of us to judge. All we can do is deal with what's presented to us in the best way we possibly can.
Right. Oh, this is amazing. This is so amazing. I'm like, I'm hoping that when I die in this life that I can go into the heavenly gates, but I seem to have to be stubborn if I can keep remembering my past lives. There's something that keeps me here.
Yes, but what I would offer you is, if at the moment of death, there's a lot of things happen. Sometimes there's confusion. Sometimes there's relief. Sometimes relatives, will meet you and they will help you across. but that doesn't always happen. And people will use a lot of times, someone who is about to die will say, I see all these people.
Yes.
All these people are here for me. Does not always happen. But that person really wants to go home in the most spiritual sense of the word. They want to go home so they can be loved. Mm-hmm. And especially if they had horrible childhoods and they didn't ever feel love.
Oh, wow. And so when children are born like with cancer and stuff, that's because their soul hasn't had the time to actually fully cross over to the heavenly gates, and they kind of just keep reincarnating into a new body.
That would imply that I know that is true. I don't know that's true. Sometimes what you're born with is karmic. Mm-hmm. And who knows what the karma is? In other words, if I didn't have the karma to be over 5'1", I've been this size since the 5th grade, so.
Me neither, Tina. I'm barely 5 feet tall. Okay.
Okay.
We have the same karma.
Same karma. Okay. We spend a lot of time looking up to people, right?
Yeah.
And so we have a short person's perspective, mm-hmm. which causes us to do more research. It's like you have to be more outgoing just to get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
So whatever we come in with our karmic suitcase. We don't know what the karma of a past life may have been that causes us to be who we are today. All we know is that in this moment now, I need to do the best that I can do in this life.
Yes.
And if I have to go to heaven, if I die tomorrow, I have a plan so that I can move into that light, or ask for an angel if you think you're a little confused. But a lot of people are so afraid that they'll leave their loved ones or they won't get to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I would like to assure your listeners that the technology of the heaven world is absolutely out of this world. So you will be able to keep tabs on loved ones. You can go back for your funeral or memorial. And you can visit them in dreams sometimes. But once you have died, it's now time for the living to keep moving through their lives as you exit stage left and allow them to have a different experience without you. Mm-hmm.
What if the living doesn't let go of you and you're already gone through the heavenly gates? What if they're constantly talking about you for like daily and looking at pictures and just constantly grieving? Does that keep the soul, the spirit that's crossed over, does it keep them more active in their life? Or does it not allow them to fully cross over?
Well, that's a multifaceted question, and it's a really, really good question. I crossed over a physician who'd also been a neighbor of mine. He was an orthopedic physician, and he died in a motorcycle accident. And I discovered him standing in my office one day. It's like, Jeff, my God, what are you doing here? I heard that you died. And he said, yeah, my family won't let me go. And he said, if you don't cross me over, he said, these black cords are working their way around my ankles now.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. And I'm thinking, you don't really have feet, but that's what he was feeling. He says, they're never going to let me go. I am their prisoner. I am a prisoner of their grief and their anger at me. Wow. He said, you have to cross me over or I'll never be free. And I had a great life. I'm done. Please help me. So I crossed him over really, really quickly. And so when the living haunt the dead. And in the third ghost book, I have an entire discussion on all the different forms of haunting. Living people haunting the dead is one form of haunting.
Wow.
And they fix it. So that's why your question was extremely astute. This is why if someone dies, you can't tell the difference. If you're wrapping yourself around them and clinging, mm-hmm. you can't tell if it's your grief or their grief. So your grief is magnified. But once
Oh,
they're
wow.
crossed over, your grief is just your grief. The potential to resolve it is so much more positive.
Mhm.
You're going to hurt for a while because this, your son, your daughter, your mom, your dad, your friend died. But if they're crossed over, you can move through that process. And I talk about this in The Lightworker's Guide to Healing Grief, which any minute will be approved as an audiobook, I hope. So and this is really true of suicide. When a person takes their own life, and I have some of the very first people I crossed over were suicides. They're always sorry. They're so sorry. I have had person after person tell me how sorry they were. They should never have done it. And it's terrifying now that they're on the other side, because what they thought they were escaping in mortal life followed them into the afterlife, and they're just terrified. And so by crossing them over, this darkness they could never escape. That's why I cannot judge a suicide. You cannot blame yourself. They couldn't escape this darkness for love nor money. So when you use the crossing over prayer for suicide, which is in the book and it's on the website, what you're doing is you are opening this door of beauty and light for them. I have a mom in South Dakota or North Dakota, one of the Dakotas, and her 17-year-old son took his life. And she found one of the hundreds and hundreds of podcasts that I've done. And she wrote to me and she said, I used your crossing over prayer for suicide for my son. And I heard a thank you. And it was amazing. And I couldn't believe that I felt better. I'm grieving, but somehow I feel better. And I want to do something more for him. I know he's crossed over and I'm so grateful, but can you write a prayer for me to say to him every night so I can still let him know I'm thinking about him, that will be karmically correct? And so I did write that prayer for her, and I put it in the Crossing Over prayer book. Mm-hmm. And she says it every night. Just because the person died doesn't mean the love connection stops. Right. There's another story of a woman who, and by the way, this woman can feel happy again. She writes to me now and then, says, every night I say that prayer, I feel happier and happier inside, because she's connecting to God. Mm-hmm. My prayer is just a vehicle to get her there. That's all it is, but it's a helpful thing. Okay. Another woman had 17 family members take their own lives. Wow. 17. That's why people say suicide is contagious. The things that happen in families. So she wanted to kill herself too. She says, I shouldn't do this, but I keep feeling like I should kill myself. Crossed over all 17 family members. Oof. Did a lot of spiritual cleaning for her location. Her suicidal ideation stopped. Just stopped. It was astounding. She got married. Her business succeeded. Her health improved. It's amazing what happens when you do this. And you can do it in the privacy of your own home. I had one guy who kept getting into bed with his wife night after night after night. She could feel his body next to her. And she said, I loved him. The guy died a horrific death. And she said, you have to cross him over. I can't have him in bed with me anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, and he leaves me all these little things. And it's like, he's always letting me know he's here. And as soon as I crossed him over, it stopped. And she said, all right, I can move forward with my life now, because otherwise you are at a point of stasis. And part of it is that the living feel guilt because they didn't stop that dead person from taking their life. Mm-hmm. So to compensate, they like to feel like they're still connected and they're working things out. You're not working things out with a ghost. I'm sorry. It's over. It's time to move forward.
Mm-hmm. I will definitely talk to her about that. It's on ghosthelpers.com for suicide.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, another question. This is probably the longest podcast I've done. I'm just so fascinated by it. So I'm part of a mediumship circle, and I meet with people from all over the world, Australia and the U.S. and it's really fascinating. We connect every Tuesday night and through Zoom. And so I wonder when these souls and the spirits come to me, I usually see them my peripheral on my left side, and it's more like a thought or a memory. I don't physically see them. I don't see transparency. It's like a memory that I have of people that I never met. And that's how I know that they're here with me, because I don't know these people yet. I can describe them, their personality, what they're wearing, even names come out. They tell me their names. They can show me how they died and everything. So I wonder, like, these people that I'm connecting with, is there a possibility that they have crossed over to the heavens and they're showing me? Can they do that, or is that only
No.
fourth dimension stuff?
That's only fourth dimension stuff, because they're not allowed to do that from the heaven world.
Oh, wow.
It is a violation of spiritual law. They cannot do that. It's not allowed. You can come to your memorial and on rare occasions contact someone through a dream.
Okay.
I mean, my brother died in 2017, and he and I we've had many, many, many lives together. We were truly soulmates. And I watched him flatline, and within seconds he was crossed over. I had him all prepared. And he's come to me in dreams twice.
Okay.
And that's it. And it's so real. I'm just shaken the next day by how real it was that he was there. It's like I can feel him. It's so real. But I think in 6 years, it's been twice. So the ghosts incur detrimental karma because they interfere with the continued life of the living. So when you cross them over, you're not just helping yourself to reduce your grieving path, you are helping the dead to stop the karmic clock so they can get the required spiritual healing they desperately need, so they won't take their life in the next life. Because people who take their life have done it life after life after life after life.
Oh, wow.
And I had a client who we did several past life regressions, and we kept trying to figure out why she was with this guy who she was with. This woman, just beautiful woman, brilliant accountant. And in every life, we must have done 4 or 5 different lives. In every single life, there was this one man that she loved. It could be her dad, it could be her son, it could be a husband, it could be a brother. This person appeared to her and was a person she loved life after life. In every one of those lives, he died. And sometimes within a couple of days, she'd taken her own life. She couldn't live without him. So she divorced the current guy she was with. And, we worked for a good while, and then she felt like she was in a good place. And she would write to me that she was dating a pilot, and she just head over heels. She met him on an airplane. So romantic. And she meets him on this airplane, and she is with him, and he was a Marine pilot. And one day I'm watching the news, and they said that a jet went down in Yuma, Arizona. And I had this horrible feeling that her guy was on the plane, and he died.
Oh, wow.
He and his co-pilot died. And I called her and I said, "Was that Nick?" And she said, "Yes, it was." I said, "Would you like to work together?" She said, "Let me get through the next couple bit and then we'll connect." And we did. We worked a couple times. And then I didn't hear from her. A year after he died, I get a wedding invitation. What? She is marrying another Marine. It was very romantic. And I called her and I said, I won't know anyone at the wedding. And she said, "Yes, but you're the only person on earth who is going to know what this means, that I lived past this death of this person, that this means I have changed my karmic path. And you're the only person who will know that I'm working so hard this life. And I want people to hear that. So thank you for this extra time.
That's beautiful.
Because God isn't punishing a person who commits suicide. They are judged and horrified. You get another chance at it. Even if you don't cross over, you get another chance. That's what the do-over is. It's what the karmic opportunity is. And if you cross them over, they come back with more strength, more wisdom, and their hearts are filled with more love. And it was very moving for me. And I was there when she got married. I took my youngest son with me. I was there when she got married. And we'd have lunch every so often after that. And she missed the guy who died every single day. Wow. Not a day went by she didn't miss him. And she said, it's hard every day. That's the truth. And I want people to know that is the truth. Changing an old pattern is hard work.
Sure is.
But the rewards are amazing. And she said, I married a good man. He's a good and kind man. And I love him. And I'm still here. And I think that maybe that will give people hope for the future of their loved ones.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'm wondering if I should continue practicing mediumship, if maybe it's not really helping. Oh my goodness. I mean, after talking to you, I'm just wondering what's my purpose now. My whole purpose, honestly, to be connecting with the other side was for me to trust my intuition, for me to trust my higher self, for me to know that I have the abilities to connect on different levels. But now I'm feeling like I need to have purpose to it. And now you're making me feel like, I mean, the truth is that these souls that I'm connecting with, when we do connect, they're not at peace. So
right.
Maybe I really shouldn't be connecting with them at all.
Well, what if there's another view, perhaps?
Like what kind of view?
That you start crossing them over. You become literally their light.
Wow.
That you're finding your soul purpose, your soul mission is to, and maybe you could share this concept with your group. Maybe if all of these mediums cross these people over, that spiritual service would help the whole planet. Because ghosts put out this sooty texture around them. Your house is never clean when you have a ghost. Never. No matter how much you clean it, it's never clean.
Mm-hmm.
The point being, what if all of you started using the crossing over prayer? I mean, I have cards in my car, in my purse, in my luggage, under Ghost Helpers that says the crossing over prayer. And then right at the top of the page, it says order crossing over prayer cards. And I have people put them, and you can order luggage tags and keychains. So there's 3 things, which means everywhere you go, that prayer card, let me grab one here. Prayer card looks like this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it has instructions on the back for the living and the dead.
That's beautiful.
Because the prayer acts like a portal, and they are attracted to this. And so your question is, how do I know it works? And I'm so glad you asked that question.
Yeah, how do we know it works?
I had a lady from mountains of North Carolina contact me, and she said, we can't tell if our mother is really seeing a ghost or she has senile dementia. She's 85. And I said, okay, tell me some more.
Sure.
And she said, she keeps seeing these ghosts. And I said, are they family members? She said, they're people she doesn't know. And I said, well, she got some crossing over prayer cards, and she put them throughout her mother's room, and she told her mother. And she gave her mother one, and she said, say this prayer every night. Well, her mother started sleeping all night.
Oh, wow.
Her husband started sleeping all night. And one night she got out of the shower, and on the mirror, thank you was written.
Wow. Wow.
And she started to cry, and she said, now I have the tools to help them that was emotional for me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because you're helping children, you're helping babies. There's a prayer in the Crossing Over prayer book for miscarriages, for miscarried babies, for aborted babies. Who helps them? I've crossed over, I can't tell you how many aborted children. Help them. And if at some point you want me to talk to your mediumship group and offer them some
I would love
ideas,
that.
then, the opportunity you have, if you have psychic ability and you're using it for the service of humanity, can you imagine what that does to you on so many levels, or does for you? I mean, it's amazing. Your kitty is so happy.
Oh, thank you. Tina, this has been such an eye-opener for me. I feel like I feel there's going to be a lot for me to think about tonight. And I'm just so grateful that we've connected. I feel no connection is a coincidence. And so how can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you if they need a ghost helper?
You can go to ghosthelpers.com and contact at ghosthelpers.com if you need to reach me. And you shouldn't have to pay a medium to cross over a ghost or someone you love. If your child died, shouldn't have to pay someone for that. The prayers on ghosthelpers.com are free. Just read them out loud. If you want more prayers, they're in the Crossing Over prayer book, and those prayers are available on Amazon, and they're on the ghosthelper.com website. All the books are available. You click them, it takes you right to Amazon. And most of them are audiobooks as well. I'm still working on the audiobooks. When I hang up from here, back to editing sound files.
Oh, I know what that's like.
Yeah, a lot of Audible.
Thank you so much, Tina Erwin, everybody, on A Little Less Fear podcast. What an amazing interview. I love you. I have to say it. I love you. I love your light and everything that you're doing for humanity and the souls and all the spirits. You're an incredible human being. You're an incredible light. Thank you so much for all of your service.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and giving this amazing opportunity.
It's been a blessing. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. I keep going because of all of you, all of the viewers, the supporters, the listeners, the followers, the subscribers, the feedback, the comments that I get. I'm just really grateful to be where I'm at and to be able to bring all these people here on this platform to motivate the world. It motivates me to keep going. It motivates me. It lights me up to keep going and going and going. And because of that, my website's also going strong. I've created an incredible resource page for all kinds of people. Anybody needing support of any kind, please check out my website at www.alittlelessfear.com. And I've also launched freelance poetry for businesses, for marketing, for people that need something creative. Check it out. Check it out. It's fun. There's video poetry. It's visual poetry. And if you have any other questions for me, you can also email me at littlelessfear@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you all, and just a million thanks.